Hello, fellow YouTubers. This is YouTube Moses here to give you my picks of the week from January 16th to the 22nd. So let's begin. First one I've watched is Fantasia. Now, this is the double pack, but I've only watched the first one. And when I first watched this movie, it was in a elementary school class room of students, and their reactions were either confusion or disgust, and mostly the disgusting reaction came from the segment where it took place in Greek times, and they were just grossed out by the topless centurions or horsemen and the fairy cupids. And a lot of people would say that their favorite segment out of the whole movie was The Sorcerer's Apprentice with Mickey Mouse, but my favorite was the second finale, which was A Night on Bald's Mountain. And if you haven't watched this for a long time and wouldn't really get into it, then I think this would be a nice stoner movie for you to relax to. I mean, there is really no plot but broken down into musical cues. So yeah. Next one is The Mist. Now, when I was listening to the commentary to this, I didn't know that Chris Owen was in this, who was the Shermanator in the American Pie movies. And he was the first on-screen death in the film. And there's a scene where I just laughed a lot at, where a guy was setting a mop on fire to kill a monster, but he just ended up tripping on a bucket of gasoline and set himself on fire. And he didn't do anything to put himself out. I mean, isn't there, like, this procedure where you stop, drop, and roll to put out the fire? Like, that's something that a lot of people would teach you in school, and they never... And it's like they never do that in any movie. It's like they want to kill themselves like that. And I know that it is written. Something else that I found out on the commentary was that Thomas Jane became so interested in the film that he wanted to stick around in the editing room with director Frank Darabont. And Darabont, the director in this commentary, said that he was such a great guy to work with, and he was paying attention the whole time along, unlike some other people he worked with, and he only spoke when he's supposed to. He was considered a cool guy and even called him his editing mascot. And he was going to make his new movie called Dark Country. So that's why he became so interested. Next one is The People vs. Larry Flynt. Now, Larry Flynt has to be the most crazy-ass character ever depicted in a movie, because there was a scene in a courtroom where he was in a wheelchair, he was wearing flag-made diapers, and throwing oranges at the judge. Now, Milos Forman makes a lot of these weird dramas that can be confused for a comedy just by watching them. And Courtney Love, who also stars in this, is considered to be on the top 10 list of the most likely celebrities to kill, just because she was suspected for the murder or suicide of her husband. And I think that, yeah, Gary Busey, David Hasselhoff, and Carrot Top are also on the list. Next one is Shakespeare in Love. Now, Gwyneth Paltrow won the Oscar for her performance in this movie, and I thought she was pretty good. But it's just that whenever I look into her eyes, they just look really creepy. And I know her true eye color is blue, but I always see them as completely black. She has like Hannibal Lecter eyes, where you have to look at her eyes at the right angle of the light, so that it can show her true eye color. And after watching this again, it just made me wish that Daniel Day-Lewis could have played the lead character in this rather than Joseph Fiennes, because Day-Lewis can deliver a dramatic line much better than him. Next one is The Midnight Meat Train. Now, Bradley Cooper plays as this photographer who's trying to be famous off the career by taking pictures around the city. And how can you be that much famous for taking pictures? Like, I feel that anyone can do that if you have the right equipment and know how to use a camera very well. And I think that there's a college class where you can take classes like those. And if they have classes for waitering there, then I think there's definitely a class for that. Now, one thing that I've definitely learned from the Meat Train is that with Vinnie Jones, don't ever talk to him or don't even be in the same place as him, because I guarantee you, he's either going to put you in a coma or just flat out kill you. I mean, the characters he plays are definitely not friendly. Next one is Reservoir Dogs in its gasoline container. Now, it was said in this movie that there's a certain area in the stomach where you get shot that could last for days until you die. And I'm not a doctor, but I do like to know what area that would be. Now, Reservoir Dogs is connected to several other future Quentin Tarantino movies that were either directed or written. Like, Mr. Blonde is said to be related to Vincent Vega in Pulp Fiction, and Mr. White knew a girl named Alabama who was in True Romance. Don't know if it's the same character, but anyways. And Mr. Orange who was played by Tim Roth, also played a character named Pumpkin in Pulp Fiction, and so on and so forth. And they had this conversation about this actress named Teresa Graves who looked like Pam Grier, who starred in this TV show in the 70s called, I believe, Get Christy Brown, and that only lasted for like one season. And I may just check out clips of that of one of those episodes when I get the chance. Last one is Charlie Chaplin's Gold Rush. Now, no matter which film he's in, he's always wearing the same suit and having a cane with him. And he was walking through the winter where nobody could managed to survive through that. And yet, Charlie Chaplin is able to. And it just makes me wonder, wearing those clothes all the time, he must reek like hell. I mean, I'm surprised the bear that came into this movie didn't, fell down and die once he'd take a whiff of him. Now, what else to say about this is that there's some narration, and I don't mean wah 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 wah, sounding like that. I mean, it's very clear and understandable, and it basically explains about the harshness of the weather or what the story is going on, and it also explains what the characters are saying in this movie. And of all the Chaplin movies, this has to be the darkest one, because even at the beginning, it shows some characters dying from gunshots or whatever, and a couple other things. So, that's all for my picks of the week. Sorry if I rambled on a bit. Rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back later. Until then, this is Yuto Moses, signing out.